Paid Speaker Now podcast. I'm your host and speaking coach, Deborah Deras, known as the top Latina peak performance speaker. This podcast is here to support you with strategies and best practices of paid speakers so you can find out what works and what doesn't, so you can achieve success with ease and grace in your speaking career. Enjoy the show. Are you always on the road speaking and your house is all alone collecting dust? Wouldn't it be nice to make some passive income while you're out speaking on the road? Well, I do. Want to know my secret? Airbnb. I use Airbnb to make some extra cash to reinvest in marketing for my speaking business. It's so simple. You just set up a listing and voila, you come home to money in your bank account on top of what you already made speaking. If you want to know more, go to the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast.com to get all the information. And welcome back to another episode of the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. I am your host and speaking coach, and I'm super excited because today's guest is somebody that I was in the audience of and was riveted by, and I was so excited to be able not to only to bring her to you, but to spread her information to the world because she has information that nobody else is talking about and that you absolutely need to hear. But before we get started, I want to let you know that you can download a free 5 steps to be a paid speaker webinar right off my website at deborahderas.com/speak now. So don't forget to grab it. Okay, so let me welcome Betty Gabbabie, founder and CEO of Let's Get Disruptive. Ooh, we love that. Betty has over 20 years of marketing and communication experience using emerging technologies to disrupt industries. She has an MBA from USC and a bachelor's from UCLA. That must be tough on Trojan Bruin games. Betty was at Herbalife for 10 plus years and was responsible for creating social media platforms and online tools to expand the business from $2.5 to $7 billion. Whoa, how did they ever let you go? She also ran digital marketing and PR for the leading women's fashion direct selling brand Gabbabie clothing and significantly increased traffic and conversions to all digital platforms. She's also guided, developed, and implemented marketing plans that resulted in $20 million in sales for a startup student loan service, as well as influencer marketing plans for product and company launches. Betty is also a UCLA Extension instructor, teaching courses on advanced digital and social media strategies, and my favorite, influencer marketing. You need to learn about that. So Let's Get Disruptive has clients ranging in fashion, real estate, technology, and startup spaces. Let's welcome Betty.
Thank you. Hi, I'm so excited to be here today with you, Deborah, who I had the pleasure of meeting at an event where I was speaking. And I would love to just share more information with your listeners.
Yeah, and the event was in Beverly Hills with the Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
And I'm just listening. And usually when I go to digital marketing workshops all the time. But you have such a wonderful way of speaking. Your cadence, the way you deliver your information, you're full of content, but just your demeanor is so relaxed that I'm able to receive it. I think a lot of digital marketing speakers are like, you need to do this and you need to do that. Right. It needs to be like this. And I don't know if it's just your soft feminine energy. I was just like, I get it. I get what she's saying. And that's so important. And I think being an instructor as well as being a speaker is a very great thing about you.
Well, yeah. And that's kind of how I started with this. I hadn't really, had a vision of being a speaker, but my career and being an instructor kind of led me to that. And I've gotten that feedback. Thank you.
Oh, good.
I've gotten that feedback from students and from others that, even when it comes to things that may be technical or may be a little bit hard to grasp, just being able to put it in a really easy to digest form.
Yes. So let's talk about how you made the transition.
Sure.
And how Herbalife ever let you go, bringing in billions of dollars, right? So how did you go from corporate to being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so that was a tough decision. I had been in corporate for 20 years and, I loved working at Herbalife. I was there when the company went public. And also because social media had just come about when I was working there. So there were no best practices. There were no social media experts. And it was just figuring things out as I went because they trusted me. So that was a really cool experience to be able to manage, launch, and grow social media and work with, they were in 80 countries at the time.
Wow.
So to work with all those countries, because each of them had different products, different events, different strategies, but then also got to do really cool things like work with the LA Galaxy and work with Leo Messi's team on how do we now take these
The
brands.
Messi, the Argentinian
Yes.
Messi? Whoa, girl.
Herbalife was sponsoring him at the time.
Crazy.
He was a huge athlete that Herbalife was sponsoring. And so being able to work with his people on how do we take this partnership and activate it with social media and coming up with agreements that included social media. And that's kind of really how my influencer piece also started. Was just
he was the influencer for Herbalife.
because he was an influencer.
Got it.
And, then it was Ronaldo as well. I know.
The Portuguese Ronaldo?
Yes.
Oh my
yes.
God. He only has 1.5 million people on his Instagram. For those of you that don't know Soccer World Cup, Google Ronaldo, okay?
Exactly. So it was a great experience. And then from there, I went to Gabbabie Clothing, and they are a direct selling women's fashion company. And similar to Herbalife, they have a team of independent stylists who sell their clothing.
Oh.
So direct sales method. So part of my job at Herbalife when I had launched social media was, well, we have all these people, the influencers already who are really the key salespeople. So they all have the following of, hundreds and thousands of people. How do we support them? And what do we give them so that they're successful? So I put together trainings, and at their big events, I would often, train their distributors, and then did the same thing at Gabbabie. So I would do workshops with 500-600 people in a room and really, like what you said, simplify. These were women who were familiar with social media for personal use, but didn't really consider it as an effective way to grow their business. Mm-hmm. So then I was talking to them about what they need to do and getting really great feedback, like, I was able to reconnect with my friend in high school, and now she's under me and she's selling Gabbabie clothing.
In each position you had, you were speaking and teaching digital marketing and working with influencers.
Exactly.
It was like the universe had positioned you to have the paid training to be able to speak on any platform.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was not something that I had really thought through. And then I got... And it just happened naturally because the platforms were so new and everything was so new that then I was the expert.
Right. Nobody could second guess you because nobody knew. People really still don't know.
And it's true.
Yeah.
It's still very unknown.
So how did you have the confidence to quit the Gabbabie and become your entrepreneur self?
So that was a tough decision. I mean, corporate world, getting, a stable, steady income was very, very, very tough to give up. But I have 3 kids, and it was just really hard to juggle everything. And my commute was really bad because, of course, we live in Los Angeles,
right,
and we can all relate. So my husband and I we talked about it many times, and he was never worried about it. It's like he had more faith and confidence in me than I had in myself.
That's wonderful.
And he kept saying, do your own thing. You're in an industry that's booming. People are constantly coming to you for help. We'll be okay. We'll figure it out. And that's kind of his attitude, whereas I'm like, I need my plan. I need to know, know, and he's just like, we'll be fine. We'll figure it out. And so I loved my boss at Gabbabie, and I went to her in November and I told her why I was leaving. I didn't have another job offer. I just wanted to start my own thing and have flexibility and spend more precious time with my kids.
You
'cause
also
they
have
were
three
really young.
boys, right?
Yeah, I have 3 boys. And at the time I had a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 5-year-old. And I was starting to feel like I'm really missing out on
Right.
key things that were going on with them.
Right.
So I told her, and she, she was a new mom as well, and she understood, and she said, can you stick around till January, because they had a big event. And she said, just help me through this event. And I did. And then January came around, and she said, can you stick around till April? And, have the flexibility that you need. But do your own thing. And so I said, okay. And then slowly, my own business just started. And from the get-go, I had friends and people I knew and colleagues and former classmates from business school that all needed help with digital marketing or influencer marketing, or any sort of marketing. So that's really what I focus on.
And I love it because a lot of people that have MBAs may not necessarily have that social media influencer marketing component. So that's something that you learn probably more from working.
That was all hands-on.
Right?
Yeah, it was all hands-on.
Because I don't know if they teach that in the MBA courses nowadays or...
I mean, it's probably now, I imagine it's part of the curriculum, but when I was there, it didn't even exist.
Yeah.
So everything I learned was hands-on, but I always like to constantly learn. So I go to so many events, every week events to just stay current on the industry.
We were at Google together last week.
Yeah.
Oh, they had to throw us out.
We were the last
We were
people
never
there.
going to leave. We were like, we're happy here. We love it here. So let's talk for those speakers that are out there that have no idea what influencer marketing is, or like your whole slide about micro influencers. One of the reasons I brought you on, because I really believe that speakers out there need to be positioning themselves at least as a micro influencer, because when it comes to the speaking industry, a lot of conferences are looking to pseudo celebrities, influencers, because they bring a draw. I know there was a conference that I was speaking for a lot of years, and then with the rise of influencer marketing, they would have somebody that had more followers speak with me, not because they had more years of experience, but because they had more engagement and influence. So let's talk about what is influencer marketing. Why do speakers need to really learn that?
So influencer marketing is really using people that have an audience that trusts them to help sell or promote your business or your product. And it's become very effective. I mean, influencer marketing is not new, right? Celebrities used to be the endorsements behind big products, big movies. But things have kind of shifted with social media because now anyone can be an influencer.
Right, not just celebrities.
Not just celebrities. And with social media, we are cluttered with so much information. I mean, with technology, not just social media, but we've got our text messages, our emails, and, we're bombarded with articles, and everywhere we go, it's just information overload. With influencers, it's a little bit easier to cut through that clutter and get your message out to people who have similar interests as those influencers. So then you're not just, wasting money or time promoting your product out there to people who can't relate. So you could get really specific, like the mommy influencers, like a car enthusiast, like a travel or lifestyle influencer. And one of the things that the numbers and data has shown is that you don't necessarily need to reach people like Kim Kardashians of the world, who most people can't afford, with millions and millions of followers. Yes, those people may help with brand awareness, but they're not going to generally push product and sales.
Right.
And so if you're following an influencer, more than likely you've been following them for a while and you feel like you can relate, and the recommendations that they make, you will likely look into if it's something that resonates
because there's
with
such
you.
a trust factor.
Because,
you literally feel like you know that person, because if every morning you're looking at their Instagram stories.
Exactly. And I actually, something weird happened to me last night because I went to a restaurant that I had seen an influencer that I follow, and I don't follow that many of them, but I follow this one specifically, and she wasn't at that restaurant. I went to the restaurant because I saw her post about it on Saturday. And then I walked out of the restaurant and I saw her sitting at a different restaurant outside 2 doors down. And I was like, whoa, this is weird. And I felt like I knew her because she's been sharing her posts from what she does and where she goes. And then I had like a reality check of like, I don't know her. You know, I've seen the inside of her
really
house.
Feel they're your friends,
but I don't know her. And so I was like, okay, this is weird. But you do start to feel this trusted connection with them where you trust what they recommend. And because influencers now value their audience so much, they're really vetting a lot of these brand partnerships and these deals because the smart ones are in it for the long run.
Right.
They're not going to promote something that sucks, or they're not going to promote something just for the sake of, quick paycheck. They want to make sure that it's something that they put out to their audience and their audience is going to benefit from.
And how does that connect with speakers? Why do speakers need to really focus on building their brand on social media?
For speakers, I think one of the first places people are going to look when they want to book a speaker is social media, right? And they want to see that this influencer is credible, is trusted, and they can do that by followers to see how many people are following them, how many people are engaging with them, what are they up to, does their audience resonate well with this event we're having? And it's an easy place to go. So I think that, anyone who's out there wanting to book speaking gigs should spend time on their social media presence and really growing and engaging with their followers.
And one of the great tips Betty gave me the other day, because Betty is my coach, I will tell you, she was like, why don't you put quotes of things that you would say in your speaking engagement on your social media? I'm like, brilliant. Why didn't I?
Because you're always giving great tidbits of information.
And I'm always speaking in like sound bites, like clarity is cash. Your ego is not your amigo. You saw I did what you said right away on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And talk about like the platforms and the different ways that you could give valuable content that people are going to relate to. Because a lot of speakers that have been out there for a long time, aren't used to the way of being relatable on social media.
So one of the things that I suggest to clients, and I think this works for anyone who wants to grow their presence and establish a consistent, clear brand on social media, is come up with 4 or 5 content pillars. Mm-hmm. What are the things that make you special and you want to be, part of your brand? So if you're involved in a charity, great. Giving back to your community could be one of them. One of them could be behind the scenes of your business, your brand. Another one could be partnerships or events. Another one could be product. And for speakers, it's you are an expert in a field, but you also have interests beyond just what you're doing. Come up with, 4 to 5 of them. And then that way you can come up with a content calendar. And it's not as overwhelming because then you're saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to back into this. And then I'm going to post once a week about each of these content pillars.
Ooh, that is so important. And you can do it like on Post-it notes, like on a whiteboard. Like these are my 5 pillars. These are the 5 weeks of the month.
Exactly.
And I'm going to do maybe a video on one, a quote on another, and then...
Yeah, and there's so many great tools now, like Planoly or Later, Canva, where if you take the time up front and spend like a couple hours a month and just get it all done, you don't really have to worry about it again. You have to still do the engagement and, grow your following like that. But as far as like creating content, I try and do it once a month. And then, I post live when I'm at an event, like we were at Google.
That is such a great time strategy technique. I know as entrepreneurs and speakers, we're doing so much to schedule things in bulk. So take 2 hours when you're like, maybe on a Sunday when you have a martini or whatever you do, your lemon water, and you just, you have your colors that you use for your brand, you have your fonts, and you just go in Canva, you make it. And I think people overcomplicate what social media is. Yes. They think it's like you have to like always watch dogs, dancing and all this stuff. Like, they don't understand social media for business is you're giving content.
Right. And that's become expected. People are giving away things for free all the time. And it's that trust element. You want to build the trust so that people are following you, because maybe they don't need your product or service right away, but you want to be top of mind. You want them to remember you so that when they do, you come to mind.
Yeah. And can you give us an example of like how social media has brought you like speaking gigs, like how people were able to see you as that expert, that brand expert?
Yeah. So I had someone reach out to me. Actually, it was a plastic surgeon, because his wife had seen me on social media and she liked the kind of content that I was posting. And she reached out to me and said, we need help. And one of the things I really helped them with, because I do consulting beyond just social, was kind of their business strategy. Because if you looked at their social media, everything they posted about was one procedure, but their bread and butter was for something different. Oh. So I talked about, I look at the margins and like the lifetime value and all the numbers stuff as well to see what content makes sense and what content is going to help us increase our revenue.
Yes. Bottom line.
Bottom line. Exactly.
And that's really when you're thinking about your clients that are going to book you to speak, they want to know what is the return on investment. If they're going to spend or invest, I don't even want to say spend, if they're going to invest money in hiring you to speak, what are they going to get out of it? And the more content that you're demonstrating, that you give and that that's online, then they know. It's social proof. Oh, look, they did this YouTube video with a webinar. They wrote this blog that they posted on their LinkedIn. They did a short 1-minute video of them speaking on their Instagram. All of these little bits show that this person is the expert. And the other thing, like what we're doing, is you can form strategic alliances with other speakers. Like I just spoke at a plastic surgery conference and I'm like, you do social media, plastic, you would be perfect for this.
Yeah.
And so referring business to other speakers is one of the ways that I get speaking engagements.
Absolutely. I feel like the referral aspect of things has been number one for me in helping me grow my business. It's been primarily all referrals.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So the majority of your speaking engagements is through referrals from people that have seen you speak?
Yes.
I love that. And I always say that you make your audience members your sales team, because I definitely was in her audience. And as that, I'm like, oh, where else can I get her to speak? Let me refer her to this center and that center. And that's what we need to do as speakers for each other, is to create this community, because we're not going to be the keynote speaker every year at the conference. Every year they want a different speaker. Yes. And if you have a network where you're referring people, and you could give them if you want to give them a commission or whatever, but you're going to be able to have a great referral source and pipeline just from the people that you're referring to each other.
Yeah, and it's just good karma.
And it's synergy. Mm-hmm. I always talk about with the power of synergy, anything is possible. So what are other marketing strategies that you recommend for new speakers or seasoned speakers?
Well, I think that right now, a lot of time and focus, we were talking about this, is being spent on Instagram. And it's important. It's a great platform. It's the golden child currently. But especially if you're in the B2B business, or if you're looking for, paid speaking opportunities from big corporations, I think the first place they're going to look at is LinkedIn.
She's like, Deborah, you better get on your LinkedIn.
So just make sure you're not ignoring it. It's not as mindless as scrolling through an Instagram feed, at 10 o'clock at night before you go to bed. And maybe it's not as fun, but it's important. So just make sure you also have some sort of strategy and also content to position you as an expert on LinkedIn as well. And those could be LinkedIn articles. It could be groups that you've created or are engaged in. But LinkedIn definitely for businesses is key.
And you told me it was the platform to watch for 2019.
Yes.
Especially, like she said, if business to business was just speakers, we are focused on business to business. We are going to be getting booked by associations and corporations. So one final question. Oh my gosh, it went so fast. What kind of businesses or clients are you looking for when people refer business to you? Who would be your ideal client?
So my clients are usually people who know they have a problem. They want more sales, they want more leads, they want more clients, but they don't know what they need exactly. So I help them really analyze the data, because I feel like you can't make decisions unless you know what the data is saying. A lot of times they'll say, oh, well, this is driving the most traffic. And then I pull all the stats and I'm like, no, actually it's this other thing that's bringing in the most traffic. So business owners and a lot of executives like to make decisions based on instinct and not fact.
Right.
So I help with gathering the facts and the data so we can make informed decisions. And then I put together a strategy based on what their goals are, what their priority and business needs are, and also what their budget and resources are. You got to be realistic. So, and that could be, digital. A lot of times it'll include offline things as well, print, radio, and social media is a key driver in most of those plans, as well as influencer marketing. So using influencers for a lot of my clients has been really, really effective.
And if anyone is listening and is looking to have somebody speak at your conference on influencer marketing, I recommend Betty. I've seen her speak multiple times, and I know that it's something that no one is talking about. How to work with influencers, the things to watch for, all of this you're going to learn from her. And also, for those of you that are speakers, to learn how to become an influencer. She may be someone that you could work with as a coach, like I am, to get that information on how to take your social to the next level. So I want to thank you so much, Betty. I know it's short but sweet, but we got a lot of information packed in.
Thank you so much. This was really fun. Thank you for having me.
And everyone, make sure that you are writing a review. If you love this podcast, then go on your iTunes and give it a 5-star. Write a review, share this on social media. Why? Because sharing is caring. And you know that you are the messenger for the message. So I look forward to sharing the next episode with you of the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. Remember, you can get the 5 steps to be paid to speak right on my website at deborahderas.com/speaknow. Thank you for tuning in to the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. If you want to get a free webinar on 5 steps to be able to be a paid speaker, go to deborahderas.com/podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, you are the messenger for the message. And with the power of synergy, anything is